Hello, everyone. My name is James Koola. I'm the Associate Program Director for the Preventive Medicine Program. For the past couple of days and weeks, to be certain, there have been a lot of information going around questioning the safety of Astrazeneca vaccine, especially in the media. And I thought, given the era we are in, that people are being vaccinated, probably that's a question that someone can ask you regarding your views on the safety of Astrazeneca vaccine. And I thought this can be a good teaching moment where we can use applied epidemiology to kind of answer scientifically about the safety of the Astrazeneca vaccine. And this is the moment I thought like I can prepare a few slides and kind of take you through how we can use data and scientifically support or reject the fact that is the AstraZeneca vaccine safe. So I decided to title my talk as Is AstraZeneca vaccine safe? And by the end of this talk, I can take you through practical applied epidemiology, and you can confidently help your family and friends living in Europe currently who are getting AstraZeneca as it's not licensed here in the US, and kind of help them make an informed decision. My curiosity regarding the AstraZeneca vaccine started with the news kind of blurb I saw, I think on March 14th, where AstraZeneca was trying to explain itself, saying that its vaccine is safe. And people say, okay, AstraZeneca is making the vaccine, is selling to us, is making money, and they have every reason why they should say it's safe. But for me, as a public health person who wants to look at things critically, I looked at the two numbers that kind of stimulated my intuition to look further. Like they have 15 DVT events, and then they have 22 kind of pulmonary embolism that has occurred for people who has received AstraZeneca vaccine. So looking through the article, I think on the 17th, there was an article from New York Times, which was titled, Europe Vaccine Suspension May Be Driven as Much by Politics as Science. And I was like, okay. I looked at the numbers, I made my quick calculations, and I said, wow, beyond reasonable doubt, I think is purely politics. There's no science. And in this talk, what I'll try is to show you how I came to that conclusion so that you can kind of confidently discuss the safety and learn a bit of applied epidemiology. So when they talk of, the question was about vaccine-associated side effects. And these were VT, venous thromboembolism. And as you know, venous thromboembolism comprises of two parts, pulmonary embolism and DVT. What I need you to understand is the fact that although people are getting vaccine or we are living our lives normally, disease will continue to occur in its natural frequency. So we're not going to stop getting MY, CVA, TIAs, people getting headaches, chest pain, getting DVTs, getting pulmonary embolisms just because vaccine is going on. So we are living our lives. Natural events are continuing to occur. And it's really important from scientific standpoint, when you raise a concern that you think something is doing something, to be able to show what we call association or causation. So to be able to attribute that you think the vaccine is causing a certain problem, like for this case, VT, venous thromboembolism, then you should see cases of venous thromboembolism which are above what you see in its natural frequency occurring naturally. And so my first quest was to look which in the European Union, I think up to 2 days ago, had kind of paused. So they are really people of European ancestry, because, I mean, that's how as good as they come, because they live in Europe. And so looking at the natural history through people of European ancestry, the incidence of venous thromboembolism is between 104 to 183 per 100,000 personal years. And so personal years, just to put it into perspective, is an epidemiological way of attributing occurring of events while taking into advantage the entire time the person has been involved in that study. And to break it nicely and just to give you a good perspective, if I'm doing a study and I decide to follow one person for 1 year, this person will only contribute 1 person a year. This is what is equal to 1 person a year, PY person a year. And so, on the same notion, if, for example, I decide to follow 365, let's say I have a middle school which has 365 children, and I decide to follow them for certain occurrence, like how are they getting COVID, and I follow these 365 students of Debbie Middle School for 1 year, then, I follow these 365 children for 1 day, just 1 day. Then 1 day is 1 out of 365 if you change it into years and consider it as a fraction. And if you do 1 out of 365 times, you are following 365 students from Debbie Middle School. Then you can see when you multiply here, you get 1, because 365 will cancel 365. So if you follow 365 people for 1 day, they give you 1 person a year. But on the same note, you can get 1 person a year, for example, if you follow 1 person for 1 year. And so to show you the power of person a year in epidemiology, let's say you want to get 100 personal years, PY, personal years. You can get 100 personal years by following, let's say, 2 people for 50 years. Imagine what has transpired in 50 years. It's so hard to follow people for 50 years, Following them for a year is hard enough. 50 years is real hard. But then, for example, if you have, let's say, 365 people, like the Debbie Middle School students, and for every day you follow them with 1 person a year. So it means I can just follow them for 100 days. For 100 days. 100 days out of 365 days in a year. For me to have the same 100 personal years, I'll get by following 2 people for 50 years. So when you have a large number, personal years is very robust because it increases astronomically as the population increases. So you can follow people for a very short period of time and have ample data to show you the association you are looking at. And this phenomena applied very nice in the trial which Pfizer did, because they followed people for just I think 2 months, but because they had a total of almost 40,000 people, they had such a robust, because they had so many personal years, and they could look at that and kind of look at the associations and be very strongly confident of what they are looking at. Astrazeneca vaccine was given. And I will just get my pen here. So January 4th, 2021, the first dose of Astrazeneca vaccine was given. And as the news was coming out, AstraZeneca trying to explain that its vaccine has no thromboembolism is not associated with its vaccine. It was on March 15th. So March 15th, that's when the letter came from AstraZeneca that kind of triggered me to look at this. And the first injection went on January 4th. January 4th. Yeah, January 4th. So you look at February, let's say it's here in the middle. So from January 4th to February 4th is 1 month. When you come to around March 4th, that's 4th of March, it's another month. And then of course you have these days now, it's almost March 18th going into 19th. So it's almost 2 months. And though I said there has been almost 2 months of follow-up since the first dose was given. It's almost 10 weeks to be exact. And just remember, by March 14th, they had vaccinated 17 million people. So if we are using our personal years, our population at interest is 17 million people of European ancestry who has received AstraZeneca vaccine. And so if you look at this, and I assumed, let's say, for these 10 weeks, almost 2-point-something months, people have been vaccinated. Let's assume that the average time the person has been since vaccination has been followed just for 1 month. And when you assume that it's 1 month, the 1 month is 1 out of 12 in terms of years, and this comes to 0.0833 years for 1 month. And then for 17 million people who have been followed for 1 month, which is 0.0833, it comes to around 1 million, almost 1.4 million personal years. 1,416,667 personal years. So this is the total time when you follow 17 million people for 1 month. Remember, from the epidemiological study, I told you the incidence for VTE in the background, in the general population, it's 104 to 183 per 100,000 personal years. So using our personal years from the literature, what we got from the literature review, for the lower number of 104, when we use the personal years we get from the 17 million, for this incidence in the lower end, 104 per 100,000, it gives us a total of 1,473 cases. For the higher number of incidents, which the range, it's a range of incidences, because from different studies, they're kind of attributing this from multiple studies. So from the top range of 183, using our personal years, it's almost 2,500 cases of VTE. But the letter which AstraZeneca was sending, which sent out on March 14th, contributed over a total of 37 cases of VTE. So when I looked at my numbers, what is being reported as cases, 37 cases, and kind of halting the continuation of vaccination, while in the normal state we expect almost 1,500 to 2,500 cases in that time span, I said oh, this does not make sense at all. This is a strong case. In real sense, there is no reason to say that AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine is associated with development of VTEs. And so I decided to become a devil advocate. I said, okay, let me be very conservative. And I assumed the vaccination started January 4th. Let's say to March 15th, when they issued their report, their apology and saying it's not associated, the report from AstraZeneca. And this time was around 10 weeks. I counted using the calendar. And then I said, okay, in these 10 weeks, I will assume that vaccination started very slowly. In the first 2 weeks, they really vaccinated very few, and then they kind of perfected their trade. They started picking up the numbers. And so I assumed, let's assume the average time the 17 million people who have been vaccinated have been at risk that they got the vaccination is just 2 weeks out of the 10 weeks which they have been vaccinating. I'm going to less than a month. And when I do that, then I decided, we have 52 weeks in a year, and so I'll use 2 weeks, 2 out of 52, and this is 0.038 years. And then our population, of course, is still 17 million. And then when I times it with the year, then I get almost 650,000 personal years. And so I took my very conservative, the available data, and kind of coming beyond reasonable doubt, there's no association, and people should continue to get their vaccination and move on with their lives. And these are the references where I got the epidemiological numbers to kind of to be able to use the personal years to attribute to the calculation. And thank you very much. I hope you will find it useful.